why is it so important for us in the society to have researchers?
The research can never stop. Research is very much necessary for everything. If I just talk about a human life, for example, I just want to add for centuries together, the people have been working on understanding the cell, cellular organelles, its mechanism and all that. And I'm very honest to tell you that we don't know everything about cell yet. So if we stop the research, then where we are going to lead? We don't know everything about ourselves. That is a simple kind of a challenge which can tell us that we cannot stop the research. I just want to ask you, have you ever got the penicillin shot?
I think as a child, probably.
Maybe or may not be. If you ask me, I make it very clear whenever I talk to my juniors, I do ask this question and none of them have gone for a penicillin shot. But if you ask me, at least 3 times I had been for the penicillin shots into it, and it used to be called as a wonder drug. For every kind of external infection, whatever happens into you, the penicillin and the course of the penicillin used to be prescribed. And if your immunity is okay for taking it up, penicillin used to be used, extensively used. Now what happened to penicillin? Where did it go? Now the generation is not, they never got the penicillin shot. This can be taken just as an example that the penicillin did not go weak. Rather, the pathogens which used to be killed by the penicillin, they got the resistance now. They really don't mind the presence of the penicillin. Let whatever may be the doses of that, they can eat upon that and they can survive even in the presence of the penicillin. This is not only an example of penicillin. You take the wide spectrum of every antibiotic what we have been using for decades together, they all are going to be nullified or they are going to be useless in very near future. So this example we can take it like every day the life is evolving.
Welcome to another segment, and today we have with us a figure that is quite curious in the person of Dr. Giresh Babu, who is the Departmental Head of Life Sciences at the Parul Institute of Applied Sciences. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you.
I know you're a busy man, so I'll try to make this as short as possible, but at the same time trying to get as much info as I can get.
Thank you.
Sir, I noticed in your profile that you have quite a peculiar interest when it comes to biotechnology and microbiology. Why those two fields?
Let me be very honest with you, I've been lucky to utilize the knowledge what I have gained through the experiences. As the life of a man is changing, the challenges are also changing their faces. The new kinds of the challenges are coming up, and being into the research, it becomes extremely important for us to realize that how it is going to impact the normal life of a man. And it is not so easy, and we need to go ahead to supplement and support their common life. So that's how I could really clearly understand it quite early in my career that we being into research, especially working into biotechnology or microbiology or any other allied fields of the life sciences, we have extreme responsibility to really deliver, right? So in that way, that realization led me to explore myself whenever a new challenge has come before me to tackle with, and I am very much happy that I could give my best.
Well, sir, I think you're underestimating how much of a challenge you've overcome, because from your profile, I noticed that you were actually one of the researchers in charge of about a 20-man member team in regards to COVID. Now, how do you feel like that impacted you in your career specifically?
Well, thank you for asking this question. If I remember those hard times, it was extremely different, throughout my life of this, or the throughout life of the generation which had been witnessing the COVID-19. They never seen that kind of a scenario. And all of a sudden, the whole scientific community was under extreme pressure to work it out and all that. So all the researchers, they stood up, and I take this opportunity to thank and congratulate everyone who really worked very hard, including the medical and for the staff also. The COVID was extremely challenging because everything was new. The whole society was shut off, and it was you are expected to go and deliver into it. So I had been, appointed as the scientist, and I was heading one whole team of one whole district, right? There used to be a district hospital, and a COVID lab had been established. The government took all the initiation that the district hospitals in every district, they must be equipped with a virology or the diagnostic labs into it. Such a kind of an establishment happened, and I was leading that particular team.
Yep.
Right from the first day, it was extremely challenging because the team were not trained to execute and all that. Right from the establishment of these, operating procedures and handling the patients, handling the samples, looking at the safety of the staff personnel also, and it used to be 24/7 kind of a service.
Yeah.
I could remember there have been multiple phases in that particular tenure that almost 4 to 5 days we have completely worked without sleeping into it.
Okay.
So that's why I tell you the greater challenge would be the sample handling, result analysis, giving the reports, right? You never had any kind of, no chance of error. That is the first thing, right? You need to be extremely perfect into it. Thanks to the technology which was developed at that particular time, and we could utilize it, and thanks to the government also, because they give all the facilities to execute that. And once the staff personnel were trained and we started to execute it, and it is all about continuous monitoring of those samples. I still remember almost in that particular tenure, we could screen more than 12 lakh samples. It took a little bit of time to execute it and bring it into a standard operating kind of a procedures into it. Once then, it went easy to execute it because we established that kind of a system. And I specifically feel that is the most fulfilling kind of a part. Like being a researcher, I thought that was a happy time for me into it.
You've mentioned how being a researcher, and it's not just mentioning it, you can see on your face that when you mention the word researcher, it kind of lights up. But why is it so important for us in the society to have researchers?
I just want to tell you, the life is never going to be same the other day, right? So when the things are going to change, the same existing kinds of the things, whatever we have, or existing system, whatever we have, we cannot retain it because the next day is always going to be a very much different one. Who imagined that one fine day we would be having COVID, right?
Yes.
We also understand that is not the end, because in that particular tenure of 2.5 years or so, we could see the same virus could come up and come back and hit you in multiple variants, and all what you established that has to be riddled, and you need to recheck yourself again to check because that was what you developed was not enough to combat the next variant.
Yes.
I'm just taking it as an example to tell you that the COVID is not an end now, because we understand that the variation and coming up with the newer kind of the species is a process which has never stopped, and which is never going to stop. So in that case, we can, in a pathogenic kind of a situation, if we talk about that also, we need to be ready to face the challenges. I can take one more beautiful example. I just want to ask you, have you ever got the penicillin shot?
I think as a child, probably, most likely.
Maybe or may not be. If you ask me, I make it very clear whenever I talk to my juniors, I do ask this question, and the current generation of the students, none of them have gone for a penicillin shot. But if you ask me, at least 3 times I had been for the penicillin shots into it, and it used to be called as a wonder drug. For every kind of external infection, whatever happens into you, the penicillin and the course of the penicillin used to be prescribed. And if your immunity is okay for taking it up, penicillin used to be used, extensively used. Now, what happened to penicillin? Where did it go? Now the generation is not, they never got the penicillin shot. What happened? This can be taken just as an example that the penicillin did not go weak. Rather, the pathogens which used to be killed by the penicillin, they got the resistance now. They really don't mind the presence of the penicillin. Let whatever may be the doses of that, they can eat upon that or they can survive even in the presence of the penicillin. This is not only an example of penicillin. You take the wide spectrum of every antibiotic what we have been using for decades together, they all are going to be nullified or they are going to be useless in very near future. So this example we can take it like every day the life is evolving. As we are trying to improve, as we are trying to gain new kinds of the knowledge for our survival, for our flourish or any kind of the development, every living being, 2 billion life forms what we have, every form is trying to improvise it. So if that comes to be somewhere, they have an ability to impaired into the life of a human, and definitely we are going to have a bigger challenge or a newer kind of a challenge which we never experienced. So the research can never stop. Research is very much necessary for everything. If I just talk about a human life, right, that is very much necessary. For example, I just want to add like we, for centuries together, the people have been working on understanding the cell, cellular organelles, its mechanism and all that. And I'm very honest to tell you that we don't know everything about cell yet. So if we stop the research, then where we are going to lead? We don't know everything about ourselves. That is a simple kind of a challenge which can tell us that we cannot stop the research.
That's very much true, because I think recently I came across an article that was speaking about the structure of the DNA.
Yes.
There was an already existing ideology of how it should look like, and now the new exploration or findings basically found that it's not the same as we thought it was.
Right.
So essentially, yes, there are things that are causing us human beings to continuously evolve. As such, researchers ever become or ever remain important.
Right.
There's also another part of your profile I'd like to touch upon. You were the head of research and development at Biogenics from 2006 to 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Now, as a head, could you highlight how that experience was for you and at least some of the achievements that you were able to get there?
Yes, that was just the beginning of my career actually. Immediately after my PhD, I got that responsibility. That was a startup way back in 2006.
Okay.
So being a startup and you going into a very responsible position, it is going to put a lot of onus onto you.
Yes.
So the basic thing was that a startup needs lots of hand holding. It, as a R&D head, it is going to be very much clear for you that you need to deliver without any compromise within a short span of a time. You need to build up the team. You need to arrange for the fundings, and you need to look for the external fundings. You need to plan the commercial research, which is going to be very different than the normal kind of a research what I talk about, right? Academic research maybe or may not be having the commercial touch. Once you're there into the commercial unit, that too working in a startup, it becomes extremely important for you that whatever the project you plan, right, they must bring something out of that, which must be commercially viable into it. If I just look at biotechnology or any life science sector, the healthcare is a very big kind of a sector which is never ending, I should say, and which is a sector where we can really flourish like anything. And working in a healthcare sector for a startup is always going to be the best option to choose. So under that condition, we planned out, I led the team for working under the polyclonal kinds of the antibody generations into it. We applied for the funding and we got the fund from the DBT, CSIR and DSIR fundings also. Through that, we started to work with some of the pathogens and their diagnosis, and coming out with some kinds of the nutraceutical or external kinds of the healthcare products into it. We delivered that project and we got the patent for that also. Though we got the funding for one particular molecule, at the simultaneously we could work with the 5 more molecules that included the early detection of the oral cancer. The biggest challenge comes up is that we still don't have any kind of a diagnostic method which can detect the cancer quite early, maybe in the stage 1 and stage 2. We don't have any method till now, because like maximum of people, they don't realize something is wrong in them until unless those symptoms start troubling them. Otherwise they don't really care about it, right? And one of the biggest cancer in that particular area was the oral cancer, because people used to use multiple different kinds of the products which had the tobacco. And we collaborated with one dental hospital, and we developed a diagnostic kit using the polyclonal antibody what we have generated, and we started to develop one particular product against the dental caries, which the dental health is one particular sector which we have seen in India that people hardly care. Yeah, that's the one thing, right? And dental cavities and the caries is quite common. Even if you go to any home, maximum of the students, because of their eating sweets and all that, the cavities are quite common, even in the children also. And in my family also, I could see my mother she suffered a lot with the dental cavities. And we wanted to come out with formulation of one antibody what we developed against the dental caries, which used to protect the adherence of the bacteria to the enamel of the teeth. Thereby the cavity could have prevented. And we also developed one product which falls under the nutraceutical one. That product used to contain our antibodies that was very much clearly targeted towards the people who are frequent travelers, right? They might be many people's life goes like this way, that they have to go into the remote areas where they'll not be getting hygienic water or pure water to drink, or it is very difficult for them, and they do get infected, and because of that the diarrhea, vomitings and all those they come up. So we developed that particular product which contained the antibodies which used to stop the adherence of that bacteria into the internal wall of the intestine. Thereby, if we stop the adherence, the bacteria is going to flush off. You are going to protect yourself from the infection, and we can stop the prevalence of the diarrhea into it. Like that way, there are a couple of 2 more products into it. They are into the commercial stages.
All right. Now, we have established a baseline in which you are highly experienced in your field. So now you've taken up the position as departmental head, and I would like to find out from you. For me, when I came in this morning, I kind of saw we're literally surrounded by equipment, even outside. But then these are equipments I personally do not understand. But then as a departmental head, do you feel like Parul University has provided you with sufficient and suitable equipment and infrastructure to carry out or to bring your department to its full potential, especially competing at a global level?
Thank you very much for the appreciation, and all your appreciations, they have to be duly thanked to the Parul management, who have been extensively supportive in building up the facilities. Because the Parul management is one management throughout my career, when I compare with many other academic institutions where I had been in touch with, the Parul management has the clear idea about building up the facilities for the research, because they understand research is one of the core component of the academics, that too especially for the higher educations. It is not only that coming into the classes and telling about the techniques on the board or on the PPT, that is not going to serve the purpose. Because if you come to the life sciences, why all these facilities are very important is that there is a big gap between academics and the industry. I had been into the industry and I understand. Now I am into academics, I understand the academics properly. Before coming over here, I was into the commercial units, and I do understand their pains also. What's the problem is that the academic institutes, they are able to give lots of people who can be employed. But all the students who come from the academic institutes, they are in a situation, they are qualified, but they are not employable.
Okay.
What is missing is the skills. What skills I'm talking about? I'm talking about the skills which are very much necessary, which are basic expectation from a commercial unit which is going to hire you.
Okay.
Right? So if I talk about the life sciences, any student having a degree certificate in his hand, and if he approaches any company, then no company is going to be interested to hire you based on your degree or academic marks or anything into it. What is the expectation of the company? What skills do you know? What you have done? Have you done your dissertation which is of a good quality? Have you published the publications related to that? That is what is going to make a difference. I have come through that particular sector because I got my degrees from university, where after coming out of that particular campus, I could clearly understand that I am not skilled enough to be employed. Right? I always try to look at that particular perspective, that the student who comes out of the campus, he must be skilled enough to get employment.
Okay.
So that skill development cannot be possible unless you have the proper facility in the laboratories where the students are going to test that experiment, they are going to execute the experiment, they are going to troubleshoot the experiments. So that has to be repeatedly available for the students into it.
Yeah.
In that particular direction, all this facility had been done because of the extreme kinds of the support from the management. And I really appreciate and thank the Parul management to have that kind of an attitude, because they clearly understand that this is a must for that. And one more thing is that the Parul University is having a established research policy. That research policy, I hardly see that kind of a research policy being executed or being implemented by any higher
Education.
institutions, right? Some of the universities, they are in the similar direction also, and one of them is going to be Parul University. Now, say for example, for any PG student, MSc student, if I talk about my department, publishing one article in 2 years is a compulsory for thing, right?
Okay.
I have never seen any university making it a compulsory kind of a component for the award of the degree. What is that is, the student should not take it in another way that we are putting a lot of pressure.
Pressure, yeah.
What is the point is that they will understand, because when I got the feedback from our alumni, they always appreciated this publication kind of a mandatory thing what we have done. Why it is? Because see, I have seen many batches coming out. More of the maximum of the students, they come with the dissertation, but the dissertation is not having any publication. So when you go for an interview, right, when our students are going to apply for that particular position, they have done the good dissertation, they have a publication in support of that. The 90% of the competition is going to be wiped off because you are already ahead in the competition, because you have that publication. Because once you are done with the career of the sciences into it, the proof is going to be the publication and the contributions what you have given back to the society by doing the research and all that. We started quite early.
Okay.
Right? Even the BSc students, right, they don't have the laboratory-based dissertation, but the management allows them. If a student comes up, he wants to do some projects into it, they are allowed. For example, in my department, in my team only, I do have 3 PhD students, and there they have come. They are in the second year now, right? They are already working on to one of the project what I am working into it. So that kind of a flexibility is a wonderful kind of a thing. For every publication, you are going to be rewarded with the incentive, and every faculty member is also going to be provided with the seed money. We call it as the intramural research. I haven't seen any university giving so much for you, so that you are going to be supported in every way if you have that acumen of research and you have that zeal to do something into the research into it. I am extremely happy to be here, and I draw a lot of satisfaction working with this particular management who clearly understand how important the research is.
Yeah. So like I said, I wouldn't want to take too much of your time, but I want to get one last piece of information from you. Given the fact that you've essentially lived out the life of a researcher and an established scientist, what advice would you give to upcoming researchers?
That's a wonderful question. If I start answering this in a longer way, that is not going to have a meaning. I just want to sum up in such a way that the first thing you need to have is patience. That is the first thing. Why patience? It's because the research is not a kind of a thing where you have everything ready and you come and you work for an hour and you have the results in your hand. That never happens.
Yeah.
You need to have the extreme kinds of the patience, and along with that you need to have the constant kind of the determination and perseverance. That is very much necessary, because you do undergo lots of frustration in research, because we do expect some things and the things usually don't go into it. You need to have a strong mind on your shoulder, where you clearly understand that yes, I believe in myself and I'm going to execute it very sure. That is how you people need to flourish yourself. You need to have the patience, you need to have the constant determination, and you need to have the perseverance, coming back to the experiment again and again and again and again. I have seen many crazy people who were so much crazy about the research that they used to eat, sleep and do everything in the laboratories for months together. That is what is the expectation of a researcher into it. Along with that, you need to be inspired. That is very much important, because many a times what happens is, being a researcher, sometimes we compromise ourselves that like, okay, this was the objective and I achieved it and my work is done. No. Every outcome of a research is going to throw open a whole big of a world before you, that where your experience is very much necessary, and you need to start continuing working towards that. That is what is very important, and you need to be self-inspired for that. Once you are inspired, you start thinking big. A researcher should always think big, because you never know how it is going to work out. That has been proved in the histories. You look into extreme, fantastic kinds of the scientists into it. What they did was, they never imagined they could really go to that level. They just started to work because they love that particular work, and they have given the results for them. And it is possible for every researcher to achieve the same thing, because as I told you that we don't know everything about the cell. I don't know, being a researcher, what new big thing you are going to report in a sooner time into it. That is quite possible for every researcher, and we need to realize that. Okay? There is no small research, there is no big research. Every research is important, and we need to understand that. This is what I wish to pass on to the students and the early researchers out of my these years experience.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
And with that, we've come to the end of this segment.
Thank you so much for the scope, and Parul University Management for this opportunity to interact with you. Thank you so much, and I wish all the best for the scope. And they are coming up with fantastic kinds of the objectives into it, and I hope they are going to make it a big one. And my best wishes are always there for every team member of scope.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.